All right, folks, it's time for Shiny Side Out with David Dunker and Necky. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Take it away, guys.
And Maggie.
Live from the Sydney studios in Australia. Jump into the chat room at freedomslips.com while we're on air and follow us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. Check out shinysideout.net for our show archives, our show notes, which include all the links we pasted in the chat during the show. Listen to us on FM, WZZR 101.3 in Kentucky. There are simply so many ways to listen to Revolution Radio. Go to the website, www.freedomslips.com. You can get an app, Revolution Radio, TalkStream Live, TuneIn.com, Radio Tuner, Spreaker.com, iHeart, Live 365, or you can listen on a Grace Tabletop Radio or driving around in a General Motors vehicle with a receiver-enabled radio. All of these options are revolutions in radio. Breaking news, though, you can now buy a CD of your favorite host for the 2013 season. Each host's CD costs $30. Check out the info on the station's website. The call-in number today and every day, if you're in the USA, is 347-688-2902, or via Skype, just add Freedom Screen. Sloris had a great show again, huh, Mecky?
Always.
Agreed.
And, our love and gratitude goes out to Solaris, as it does every week.
It sure does. And, you know, we are doing, what's the show number, Mecky? 107, but we don't say it like that, do we?
Oh, it's 7 and 100.
7 and 100. You have to do maths to listen to Mecky's numbers. Do you know what, Mecky? How do I greet you today? Is it not Guten Morgen? What is it? Guten Abend.
Guten Abend for our listeners in America. It'll be Guten Abend. Here in Germany, it'll be Guten Morgen, and for you it is auch Guten Abend.
It's all too complicated. So you're in Germany right now?
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. Becky, there's been a lot of news. Is this week been full of news or what?
It's been full of news, but before I tell you that, I've just found out that YouTube doesn't live stream in Germany. There's no live streaming of YouTube in Germany.
Really?
Yep, legal issues. I can't look at it. It's all good.
Oh, well, unless maybe it was a different topic entirely. Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we had a lot of news these days. Specifically, I mean, there's a couple of news items specifically, but Dave has been doing a lot of research this week into, we'll tell you about it, the Malaysian airliner. But the other news stories as well, of course, Ukraine and what's happening there. I'm going to talk to you guys about that a little. And then we will finish off our ancient tech stuff with you, but that's a bit later. So Dave, look, why don't you guide us into this Malaysian airline mystery? I mean, it baffles me, but I will tell you why it baffles me after you give us the intro, sir.
Yeah, look, no dramas whatsoever. We all know, we are now all familiar with flight MH370, the Malaysian Airlines from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, never arrived, and every single day we wake up and on the news it's a completely different story. It's changing every single day, and I don't mean slightly morphing one way or the other. It's taking tangential turns, and I think it's sounding more like a Roswell every single day that I listen to it. You know, crash test dummies. You know, honestly, it's something else. Now, I've been following it every single day, every moment of every day that I can, because I do work. One day, Mekki, we both live and dream that we could do this professionally. But until then, this is the thing. Okay? Now, Mekki and I have been talking about this off air for some time. We're working together, trying to piece together what it is. Now, we all know that where it's come from and where it's gone to. So, and I'll just to recap for those who don't, to timestamp the show, the plane went missing at 1:14 a.m. after flying for about 20 minutes or so. Then, you know, it didn't blow up in the air. There wasn't debris in the local area. There wasn't debris further on. They didn't know what happened. It was flying at 35,000 feet at 472 knots. It's in the safety zone. It's the safest part of traveling in a plane. It's where you're on autopilot and there's nothing to do. The plane is not under any stress. Everything is working at nominal values. Normally, there's a system called ACARS. You've got you have domestic and military radars, like civilian radar. They don't go the civilian radar doesn't stretch out very much from the coastlines of countries. Military radar does, however, go much further out, and also satellites pick up the differential where there is no information there. Now, there's a system called ACARS. It's a very important system that was actually designed and developed on and for the 777 itself, and subsequently being given out to all of the other aircraft of all the different makes and models. There is something that is also called the flight. There's a number which is the classification, the actual number. So it's called the registration, aircraft registration number. In this case, it's 9M for Mary dash MRO, which is, I should say phonetically, so Niner Mike dash Mike Romeo Oscar. That is the flight registration, aircraft registration number, not the flight number. That's MH370 in that direction. The thing that's odd about this is that registration number is particular to the ACARS system database. And you can go to the database wherever you are, whenever you want to, and you can find any plane's altitude, heading, airspeed, and a whole bunch of other things I bet you didn't know you could get. Like...
Well, so what's the odd thing about this flight, though?
Well, what's peculiar, like just thinking about all the different things, that the telemetry that you get, like we can get racing car telemetry when we're watching, you know, a sports event with racing cars. We can see what gear they're in, how many Gs they're pulling. You can get all that, that's called telemetry. So you can get that telemetry by the ACARS system. In fact, it's a two-way system. You can send commands to the airline, to the aircraft from the ground, or you can just stream out data out of the aircraft. Now, this is being recorded on a server, and that server is looked at by a whole bunch of people. Number one, most presumably, would be the aircraft engine manufacturer, i.e. Rolls-Royce in this case. And Rolls-Royce told the media this week that they were able to continuously see that the engines were running for about 5 hours after the plane was supposed to have disappeared. Okay, that's really interesting detail, because everyone else is telling us that the ACARS system was turned off. Now, if you turn off the ACARS system, you don't get the streaming telemetry. That's unusual. Hang on. Why is Rolls-Royce telling us they could get the data? We know that satellites pick up this signal as well, and on the ground there's two different systems that run ACARS. I won't complicate it by telling you the names of them, but they were set up particularly in the US, South America, China and Malaysia out of all the places on the planet, these are where they were set up. And this is actually where the plane is flying, not South America or North America, but between Malaysia and China. It's a continuous area for ACARS. It's in VHF, especially the planes at 35,000 feet. It can be witnessed across its entire flight path, and you can get telemetry the whole way. Also, the satellites pick up the telemetry as a beacon every hour on the hour. It tells them the same detail: heading, airspeed, and the altitude. So you know where the plane is. It also has the plane identification number, which is 9MMRO. Funny that I thought, well, you know what, I'll have a look to see how much data I can get off the ACARS database about this plane. Let's see where it's been before. Let's see if I can replicate that on, say, Google Earth. Because you can download it as a HTML file or a spreadsheet or whatever you want. Zero data is available on this flight. Zero, none. And so I went backwards in time a week. Zero. Huh? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It looks as though it's been deleted. And I think that tells a deeper story. Now, I've been following the details of the aircraft itself and all of the news stories coming out that, you know, originally 2 false passports. That's just they're trying to get on board. They're Iranians. They were checked out really quick. What was actually funny was the Malaysian officials said, oh, don't worry about them. They're okay. What do you mean they're okay? We've subsequently found out that there were a number of spies, international spies, on the same flight, all from different countries, which is very unusual. There's been question that's come up this week to do with the possible cargo on board, which has been kept quiet the whole time. The media hasn't really touched on what the possible cargo was, whether this was simply a heist, you know, like the railroad heists or a stagecoach heist. Who knows? We don't know. And that's not been on the table, and I think that should be. You don't know what it was. There was a certain amount of IP, Mecky, on the plane, and IP being intellectual property. There was.
Yep.
CEO, IBM, I think it was, or ex-CEO.
Yep.
Who was the other company, Mecky? There was another company.
What was his name again?
Freescale.
Yeah, that's right. They're a semiconductor company, and from what we can glean, the entire senior leadership as well as technicians were on the plane. Some 20-odd people, Dave. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So there's 20 people from a single company, but that raises a concern, doesn't it?
Well, the thing is this. Look, you may have figured out by now that I work for a large American corporation. That's why I'm traveling like a crazy fool. But essentially, I was working on a deal in 2007 out of Singapore. And the deal was with a Malaysian company, and we had to fly to Kuala Lumpur from Singapore, which is a very short flight only, maybe hour and a half. But the deal team had to be split up into 2. And we all said, well, why do we do that? In fact, I'm 2 different airlines. And then they replied to me, which I thought was a joke. Well, in case one crashes. I said, no, they said it's serious. If something happens, we can't afford to lose the entire team. Like, okay, that's reassuring. But yeah, so the insurance issues, if you don't do that, I mean, if your entire senior staff is going somewhere on the same plane, on the same bus, on whatever it might be, I think there's insurance liability issues. It's not a done thing. It is very unusual for that to happen.
Yeah, it certainly is. Hang on. Oh, yeah. So
yep.
I think that everyone's aware of those rules, and if the concerns are that the company would then be under investigation, of why would you put your company at risk? I mean,
yeah.
The
stock price should be dropping. That's the thing, right? I mean, it has to affect the stock market, but the share price, if it's a listed company, should be dropping. Yeah,
it should be. Now, we all know there's spies. we all know that well, that's one thing. Companies do have spies, and you can intellectually, you can steal other people's IP just becoming an employee for them, and and siphoning it out. But I mean, it does sound very weird that if you wanted their Freescale's IP as a competitor, you wouldn't crash the plane on them. You could. That's silly. I've heard a lot of talk this week about the possible theft of just the plane. Like the plane didn't matter, and then that this was raised with me, and I mean I stopped this one pretty quick because everything they said they could steal a plane and then sell it. Who's going to buy it?
I'm sorry.
I know, it was hilarious, right? And I couldn't believe that it was raised, but it's still raisable, and that is that but the reason why you couldn't do it is because every single component on that plane is stamped with that flight registration number. So in the case of a mid-air collision between two planes, they would be able to pick up every piece, look at it and go, oh yeah, that's the MH370 or the N9M MRO flight. They can identify the pieces. So it seems very unlikely that would be the case that someone would steal it. Of course, they're going to park it in a garage, spray paint it black and put it on eBay. Oops.
Yeah.
That's also highly unlikely. Even if you sold it for spares, you wouldn't get 20 million.
No, that sounds extremely unlikely. There are a few things though which bother me about this particular story, and we'll tell you about some theories here as well. In fact, Micah from the chat room mentioned an interesting theory which we'll share with you. But look, this is the thing. It now looks like the disappearance is blamed on a hijacking. Fair enough. Look, I have no issue with that, and certainly you can turn transponders off, and you can do all kinds of wonderful things. You can fly a certain height, and then it'll drop off the radar as well. But for 7 days, the Malaysian government, which seems to now go with the hijacking story, has not done that. Has in fact it's missing, it's this and that, in resulting in one of the largest search missions in the history of aviation. I mean, a lot of countries sent. Australia sent 2 planes, right? So there were dozens of planes and boats and so forth looking for this particular plane, which cost a lot of money, right? It almost came to a diplomatic incident with the Chinese, between the Malaysians and the Chinese, because the Chinese naturally are concerned. There are, I think, 160 or 180 odd Chinese nationals on that particular flight. There are also 6 Australians, obviously a few Americans. So why not immediately come clean, save everybody the massive expense, right? Unless this is just to confuse and obfuscate. It just doesn't make any sense in my mind if you realize, well, hang on a second, this looks like a hijacking. Well, okay, let's get on it right away. Because after 7 days, especially if it drops out of the radar, you have Buckley's chance of finding the plane ever, anywhere,
That's right. Besides what we've been told, one of the things that comes up is, look, the only reason at the moment, if you take face value what they're telling us, is that the plane did a 120-degree left-hand turn and then flew over the landmass till it hit water again and turned right then 120 degrees and did like Z and then flew a little way and then left 120 degrees and kept flying. That heading would have taken it over the Andaman Islands and then further over to India if it kept on that path. The zigzagging could be just to throw us off so we couldn't predict where it would be next. It wasn't a straight heading. The actual zigzag is a known flight path. Each of those are known flight paths. But you know how hard it is, Mekki, being aware of the flight corridors, that how you can slot into a corridor without being within that, the 5 kilometre zone between aircraft. You normally have to pull yourselves in.
Yeah, that's why we have transponders and flight traffic controllers. I mean, if it was easy, we wouldn't need either. Because there's a lot of traffic. There are thousands of planes, commercial and otherwise, in the plane at any given time. There are, and if you alter your course, and do whatever, and you stay within, the flight height of everybody else. Even if you drop, there might be an issue. You run a real risk of collision and catastrophe. So you're right, Dave. It's not an easy thing to do. But since you mentioned the flight paths, I just want to throw this out here. I posted a link into the chat of a newspaper or a webline article, which gives the potential 2 corridors this plane could have taken. One leads it to the west coast of Australia, just off Perth, and the other one leads it into the general direction of Kazakhstan. Now, if you actually extend the flight path to Kazakhstan and then further past the Black Sea, you actually end up in the Ukraine. I'm just putting that out there.
I'm with you.
I'm not saying anything. What I'm saying is there's you know.
It is our job to raise these questions. The other one, of course, was the mental stability of the pilot and the co-pilot that was raised as well. They actually raided the pilot's house this week.
Yeah.
They raided his house. Oh, it's just natural. You know, we just do that's what we do. You know, there's a flight thing.
I would do that.
Yeah, sure. And the only thing they could find on the co-pilot was that he's invited some ladies into the cockpit, which is against the rules of the airline. But, you know, hey, not so bad. Yeah, they're only ladies. So,
the ladies.
Yeah, I have to say that in a weird voice because he's clearly a player. He's using his fact that he's a pilot to attract ladies.
Can I show you my cockpit?
Yeah, that's right. One thing that I think is really, really weird, what they're telling us right now is that the plane veered left to do this new stuff. How do they know it's the actual plane? Well, there's no reflective data that comes off the plane when ACARS is supposedly turned off. But we've been told by Rolls-Royce that it really wasn't turned off and they knew exactly where it was at all times. The other is that that the beeps that they got hourly were triangulated in milliseconds differential like we would do with a GPS. If you had to manually work out where that sound came from on the planet, the radio signal, you could do that with multiple satellites picking up the same signal and just, you know, use the variant in milliseconds as the differential on the planet's surface. It's really easy to do. This is triangulation. They're claiming that's how they knew, but they can't really know only that because Rolls-Royce are telling us that the engines are fine. What do you mean fine? You're talking about the same airline, right? Yeah, the same airline. The one that ACARS was turned off. Yeah.
Thing though, Dave. That's the crazy thing. I mean, we've got these different, I guess, sources of information and data, right? And again, I put it to you guys. Why did the Malaysian government or whoever, Malaysian Airlines, I don't care, whoever's got the authority here to make disclosure, tell us immediately that in fact, no, the plane hadn't crashed, it hadn't disappeared, we can still track the engines. Oh, you can still track the engines. Well, that means it must be doing something, probably flying.
It's still flying, yeah. So if for instance, like I'm not saying that I'm a hijacker, I'm saying that, because I'm not the hijacker, we have a host in the station called the hijacker. But if I was one and I walked down the plane, I would want everyone's electronic devices in a bag. Yep. So to be concurrent with the stories of the loved ones trying to phone their, the people on board the flight, and it just rings and rings and rings, and then when they ring again, it doesn't work or whatever. It could be that the big bag full of phones just slowly ran out of power. I've got a tremendous phone. I love my phone, but I know that 2 days in, I bet without touching it, it's going to be flat. Such is the new big screen phone. So after the second day, give up. It's not going to work, right? Unless they've got power. And I reckon if there was really a hijack, they'd all be in a bag. You wouldn't want the people on board the flight to be contacting anyone. And if it did land, and the eyewitness accounts were correct, where they saw it fly and it looked like it was going to go over Cambodia, that's as likely a place as anything to actually land a flight like this. I don't know that a nation-state attempt at any kind of espionage or anything that we've seen, especially extrapolating this out to be a nation-state event, I don't think they've done anything this big. You know, they've done, you know, internet hacking and stuff like that, which we all know about. But I don't think there's been anything quite like this. You know, it puts it, I think it's way past. I think it's too much for a nation state to hijack an aircraft just because it has 20, you know, Freescale employees on it. You know what I mean?
Well, it depends. Look, I agree with you. See, this is where it gets a little strange, and this is what I want you guys to think about as well. So, whenever there's a crash, whenever there's something wrong with a plane, it's hijacked, whatever it might be, killing passengers, ask yourself who was on the plane.
Mm-hmm.
Same with 9/11, right? Who was on the plane? But who? I mean, the thing is this: if the target is valuable enough, I want you to really realize this.
Yeah.
I don't care who it is. If it's valuable enough, they will blow up a plane. They will blow up buildings. They will even, attack countries if necessary. Who is they? An excellent question. If I knew, I would tell you. Mm-hmm. But the point is that this will happen. So whenever something like this happens, I always wonder, well, who was on that plane? And who would make it an okay thing to do whatever has happened here?
Yeah, I know. What makes it okay? Well, whoever's making decisions makes it okay. It's like when we talk about the Illuminati deciding that we're all, you know, just chicken fodder or cannon fodder for whatever plans they've got. We are. Yeah. So I can see, Nicky, I get your point. I really do. What's disappointing in this is that, look, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, I don't think that the information that's being served by the Malaysian officials has been done so in a manner in which I would expect officials to behave and to report information. We have 5 different agencies outside of them giving us completely different information. So what is it that they know that they're trying to get around? But to me, they appear like school children.
Yeah.
Imagine if you had, you know, people who didn't know what their job was entirely, they've never done it before. They just seem like they're I don't know. I don't think they're very good at their job. Let's put it that way. It's like imagine in the back room are the real officials, and these are just the work experience kids.
Yeah, look, we can't always go to the incompetence excuse, right? Mm-hmm. 9/11 was explained like that. Oklahoma City was explained like that. Waco was explained like that to some extent. The Ruby Ridge was explained, if you remember that, guys. The Ruby Ridge shooting was explained like that. So, okay, look, I mean, at some point you have to ask yourself, well, if everybody's incompetent, maybe we should hire a whole bunch of different people to do this thing, right? Maybe there's something with our training. I don't know what it is. But we can't always say, oh, you know, it's incompetence. Oh, yeah, it's always incompetence. Great. No, I'm sorry. That only goes so far. Yeah,
no, I'm with you on that. So, you know, it's so odd. I have to say, it's just the strangest thing. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it, to be honest. I mean, the world hasn't. We haven't seen, you know, a plane just disappear off the map before. But, you know, when you look deeper into this, it really didn't. It didn't that's the disappear.
Thing. Yeah. They say it did, but, you know, as we know now, well, no, not really, because we have all these different ways of tracking it, and now, in fact, you're saying to us, oh, no, it didn't. Well, thank you very much, but you haven't really done anything for us here in the sense of telling us what's going on, which is, you know, really what our complaint is, guys. I don't know. I do want to share quickly, though, a theory that Micah put forward, if that's cool.
Yeah, go ahead.
Micah said that the transponder was turned off, and then it may have gone to 40,000 feet, killing the passengers, unless they got the oxygen masks. Then it went to 20,000 feet, and that's to avoid the radar, turning toward China. Then another person turned off the circuit breaker that pinged the satellite, and now it's a ghost plane and probably refueled in China and then off to Iran. Now, hey, you know what? That's as valid a theory as any I've heard thus far, so I can't really discount that. It's speculation only, of course, by Micah. And thank you, Micah, for participating. But you know what? It's fair enough. Could be. Don't know why, but then again, I don't know why they would have done anything else. And everything that has happened here doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, you know, I find it difficult to comprehend the whole thing. I just can't wait for more information to come out. You know, that the excuse that now it's over the Indian Ocean and 7,000 foot, 7,000 meters deep. Good luck, we'll never find it. We're just going to quit looking. That's the latest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what, you've given them the plane, the people, and everything, and you're going to quit. Right. It was almost like there was no urgency, and all the urgency was feigned on the whole thing.
Actually, the dude guy just raised a very interesting point in the chat once again.
What's that?
He says that the fact that the Prime Minister of Malaysia made the announcement of the radar data, right, in dude guy's opinion, might be indicating that the country was threatened. Otherwise, a normal official would do that. I agree. An airline official, in fact, should have done that. I don't know, the CEO or whatever, or maybe, whoever the spokesperson for the airline is.
Yeah, or,
So
or an aircraft controller, shift manager or someone.
Yeah, so thanks, dude guy, for raising that. That's really odd, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I like...
Again,
Yeah, I like Dude Guy's further comments there. That, this is what the show is all about. It's all about interaction. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, please jump back. Catch us live on the air and jump into the chat room. But I don't have anything else on this at the moment. I think outside of what I said last week, and it seems unlikely because of all this information that's come up. But, for me, until they find the plane, I think the UFO connection is still there for me. Planes don't normally do 120-degree turns. They're waypoints. They're angular. It's not really designed for the comfort of the passengers to do such large turns. So, and the comments in which they were able to describe this was they made a what was the term I used earlier? A sharp turn. What, planes just turn. Whether or not it's...
Planes move.
Yeah, they arc. Right. They arc through their turn. And if just like, bear with me, tinfoil hat on, right? Just like it... Yeah, safely on, arms inside the carriage, no flash photography. If you put one plane flying over the top of another and you turn off the lower plane's transponder, it could look, for all intents and purposes, as being that plane having turned, making a sharp, angular turn. What's a sharp, angular turn? Turn up in your head. Unlike normal flight characteristics. If that kind of thing comes out to you and then suddenly just keeps going on its business and doesn't seem to land anywhere, and it's the only reason they're saying that they think it's the flight is because, well, it seemed to have taken over from the previous radar entry. That's it. It didn't reflect back an ID. There's no ACAR. There's no bleeps. Nothing. Right? Despite what hearing, I have to ignore some evidence for that to be valid, though. The Rolls-Royce thing. But the Rolls-Royce thing could mean that they just flew the plane off to be used for another purpose later on. It could be the beginning of another 9/11. Hijack the plane, make it disappear, and then set it up for an incident.
Well, look, and this is a bit of a worry because again, I'm going to draw the long bow here, guys. Is it heading off to the Ukraine? I don't know. But the point is that the majority of the passengers are Chinese nationals. You also have some high-tech guys from the U.S. You get some, hapless Australian tourists and so forth. But so do you want to create an international incident? Well, you can, and then blame it on, someone. If you kill 180 Chinese nationals in the Ukraine, you can blame it on, I don't know, maybe some American sympathetic group. You have the makings of a great assassination in Sarajevo. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, for instance. It's an excuse. It's not a reason. It's only an excuse to do whatever you want to happen. Is that likely? No, it's not very likely. Is it possible? Well, anything is possible.
Oh, I completely agree with you, Mickey. Anything still at this point is possible. It frazzles me. I'm almost burned up after this the whole week. And still no plane. This is, despite all of the stuff, despite all of the things that we're used to, in this day and age, these expressions come to mind. In this day and age, why can this happen? How can a plane just disappear? And then to find out that spies are, flying around in our domestic flights with abandon, right? Why would the question? Why would a company risk its entire management team on a single flight? It's all of these questions come up, and since there's no definitive single answer, I have to say that I'm still checking the news every single hour. I'm watching Reuters. I'm trying to get the info I can from whatever source. I don't care anymore. We shouldn't see this. Now, Mekki, you fly a lot, and I have to ask you a question. How does this make you feel in regards to stepping on a plane now?
Look, ever since 9/11, I've been apprehensive about flying for various reasons, of course. But this latest thing, no rhyme or reason, hijacking. It's okay. First thing first, there are thousands of flights every day, thousands and thousands and thousands, and these incidents, while horrible and concerning, aren't very common. But now this latest layer of I guess deliberate withholding of information, it makes me worry a little. I do work for a multinational as well. The information that I hold in my hand is not really that valuable, but commercially speaking. But I do catch flights with other people in the business and IBM and so forth. So if somebody wanted to hurt the companies, that it'd be a good way to do it. To go to the plane. So it does make me a little apprehensive, but again, I have no choice but to fly. It's such the nature of my work, and it's disconcerting. But you put it out of your mind, Dave. You have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm hearing you. My mum worked with Qantas. We're a flying family. We've always flown. We've been there since the beginning of the gloriousness of, and that's a word, the gloriousness of flight, of jetliners, of the closeness of our community and the way that the community of Earth, remember we're meant to be, is just so much closer. It brought the whole world together. The one thing that disappoints me is how people use that. And I really want to see this. I want to see this wound up really quick. I prefer if that we can get back on with our lives again. I don't want this to be an escalation of the terrorist act. The one thing that came to mind immediately was, the UFO false flag. And I was just waiting for them to say, well, you know what, we've just received a radio signal from somewhere or whatever, and it said this is tinfoil hat stuff. And, I just want waiting for them to say, and that, we haven't been very nice. We're really apologetic as a government to the people because we had an agreement and we broke it, and now they're doing this to us, whatever, right? I've been waiting for something because we all look for instigation points or the forks in the road, and I just don't want this to be one of those, because then they'd be right. And who would be right, Mekki? The people that our listeners would be right, and we'd be going down the path of the UFO false flag. But
yeah, look on that. Yeah, we had that in the chat here as well. It's a possibility, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Look, I don't have any more on the Malaysian airliner as well. I do want to share a few thoughts on Ukraine with you guys.
Please.
So what I think is going to happen in Ukraine, the Crimea is going to Russia. There's going to be a referendum. I think it's going to be either now or in a couple of days where they are choosing where they want to go, which is interesting because it's majority ethnic Russian anyway. And then they've got a whole mix of other people, Tatars and Ukrainians and so forth. So I'm believing that the Crimea is going to go to Russia, or the Ukraine may be split into East and West Ukraine, or who knows what's going to happen. So that's going to happen. America, while it postures and then makes all kinds of threats, will do nothing, is my opinion. And that's because that'll be insane. Okay, that would be not a good thing. In fact, if America landed troops in Ukraine, I go, okay, well, we just turn off the lights, thank you very much, and migrate to Mars because there won't be anything left. So, yeah, I don't think that sanctions never do anything except for the little people. I mean, they hurt the little people. Trust me, the people in power that make the decisions are never, ever, ever, ever hurt by the sanctions.
No, that's right.
I didn't see Saddam Hussein. Did you see how Saddam Hussein starving, or did he look any less well-fed when the Americans had sanctions against him?
I didn't see him crying in the corner saying, the sanctions stopped me getting Cocoa Pops.
There you go. Right, so now this
That's a breakfast cereal for everyone in America.
Oh, yeah, it is breakfast cereal. It's like chocolate milkshake, only crunchy. Now, and please pay me for that, by the way, Cocoa Pops. So that's the situation, and I think it could escalate into something else. Now, Chechnya did not escalate. Kosovo did not escalate. Why would Ukraine be any different? Well, you have to understand that Ukraine holds something that the that Russia really, really needs. And that's a port that is useful all year round. Okay, a non-ice port.
That's right. It's a warm ocean, so it's a warm sea, deep sea port.
Correct. Which is the only one the Russians have access to more or less legitimately. It was, for me, to be honest with you, it was only a matter of time before the Ukraine would come on Russia's radar for the annexation of those ports, because the Russians need them. It is that simple.
That's so true.
So this is what's called realpolitik, guys. This is what happens in the real world. Nations in unison act like there's an anarchy. There's nothing regulated, and they will act in their own best interest. So don't be too surprised that this thing in Ukraine has actually happened. It was inevitable. So that's all I want to share. Now I have actually got a bit of bad news, Dave. I don't know if you're aware of this. I only found out this morning.
What's that?
Well, my morning. It's your afternoon. I don't want to laugh, but this is really sad. Are you guys familiar with Dr. Roger Lear?
Yeah.
Alien Scalpel. He was a real, and by my choice of words, you might see what I have to say. He was an expert, world expert on alien implants. He has passed away.
Oh.
Passed away.
I don't want to be insensitive, and it's not too soon, I don't believe, because we have tinfoil hats and our listeners are the same way. I don't want to really guess, but was it like a complicated aggressive cancer, a car crash, or a heart failure?
I don't know, honestly. The only information I have from his website as well is that he has passed. There's no further information as to how and what happened. So I don't want to hazard a guess here, but he was one of the foremost, or maybe the foremost expert on alien implants. He in fact was a doctor. He was a podiatrist. Yep. So he had medical training, and he in fact his website is called Alien Scalpel. If you want to have a look at that, I'm going to post it into the chat, guys. Alien Scalpel, one word. If you haven't heard of him, I suggest you look at his research and his contribution to UFO. Research, in fact, fascinating stuff, and he's, in my opinion, a great loss. And thank you, Duncan, from Nexus for posting the information. That's where I learned from about it. But it's a sad thing. So I just wanted to send my tribute to Dr. Lear and his family.
Wow, that's just.
Sorry about that.
No, I'm actually quite set back by that. I mean, there's another one gone.
Recently, a lot of researchers and people that do what we do, well, more than we do, have been taken from us. Right, Dave, mostly by cancer. I don't know. It seems to be the thing now. Cancer is a relatively well, no, it's not a new disease, but cancer certainly in the way it seems to pervade our society now is unheard of. Compared to earlier times, cancer is a massive killer of the heart disease. And I think it's environmental, to be honest with you. It's our lifestyle, guys. It's how we live. It's what we eat. It's what we drink. It's what we're exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have electromagnetic radiation wave around you and not have any effect on your cells. It's insane to think it doesn't. X-ray radiation, right, which we can't see. We know causes cancer. of course, radioactive radiation causes cancer and death much quicker than anything else, and we're exposed to massive increases there. You know, not just since Fukushima, but you know, there was 6 Mile or 7 Mile Island, and then there was 2 Mile, some Mile Island in the States. There was Chernobyl. I was in Europe when Chernobyl happened. The other things like tests. I mean, tests in the atmosphere, tests underground, tests in the Pacific. That radiation doesn't just disappear. It lingers, guys, and it spreads. It distributes itself around the system. The Earth is a living system which distributes water, air, you know, other materials around the globe constantly. So the radiation is not contained to wherever it is. I mean, look at the ocean pictures for Fukushima. Look at how the radiation, the radioactive water drifts toward the west coast of the North and South American continents. It's much higher now, the background radiation, than it ever was before. So this is real stuff, right? And I believe our cancer deaths are, apart from the lifestyle choices we make, are very much related to this.
You know, there's 1,053 air bursts of atomic weapons since they started. 1,053. It's almost equivalent to the amount that would be used in a single war if we were to go to war using nuclear weapons. You wouldn't need that many. Yeah, seriously, you wouldn't need that many. But if you add Chernobyl, you know, was it 12 Mile Island and Fukushima?
12 Mile Island, that's it.
If you add those to the list of, you know, radiation leaks, and then all the subsequent leaks from all of the power stations that they keep, shh, don't tell anyone, hey, yeah, there was a bit of a leak last night, no one knew, yeah? If you count all that, because each one of those has, depending on what it is, which heavy element it is, can last up to 250,000 years in our atmosphere, so...
That's the thing. And now think about this. And tinfoil hat, guys. Tinfoil hat. This just came to me. Creative process in action again. Now, 2053 air blasts, other things as well. You know. Now, I'm just putting it out here. Is someone trying to re-engineer our atmosphere? Is someone trying to re-engineer our habitat to suit someone else or other conditions?
Mm-hmm.
Just putting it out there, right? I mean, what is the reason? Sorry.
There's the UFO false flag invasion thing. Yeah.
Well,
it was too cold for them. Mickey, it was too cold for them. Global warming, yay.
Why else would you have in excess of 2,000 tests? After 100 you go, yeah, we can detonate nuclear warheads. It works.
Yeah,
no, I'm not sure. Let's test another 1,900. Let's give 2,000. Yeah, I think it works.
Yeah.
Why? Well, look, let me put it this way.
And that doesn't include the underground tests.
Yeah, well, that's right. No, exactly. Now, both Dave and I are in IT, and we're very much familiar with testing of software, hardware, and so forth. So we understand testing. We understand what is required. We understand the protocols, and we also understand statistics. I mean, I studied statistics at uni because I had to, not because I wanted to. So after that many tests, in fact, well before we've reached that number, there should not be any doubt as to, number one, we can do it. Yes, it works. Number two, what are the effects?
Yep.
And number three, what can we extrapolate?
Mm-hmm.
There's no data overload. So why keep testing? I mean, except for the fact that maybe we are posturing, showing other nations, hey, look, we can blow you up. There's no reason to further test nuclear weapons.
Yeah,
we know how they work. We know what happens, and we know how to set them off. I mean, everything else is just insanity. Plus, they're not cheap. And there's not that much fissionable material in the world. I mean, it's not unlimited. Okay, guys? The uranium and so forth, it's not... I mean, thorium is pretty good. I mean, I would go with thorium. But the point is, it's not unlimited. So let's just, keep blowing it up. I don't get it. I really don't.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Mackie, since you've mentioned it, I've done some Googling, and I found that this is a quote from the Paracast.com. The headline reads, Dr. Roger Leir has died, and it continues. It says, I'm sad to announce Roger Leir passed away yesterday, March 14th, 2014, while preparing to go into surgery on his foot. Oddly enough.
Huh.
he had excused himself to visit the hospital men's room and never came out.
So we don't know how he passed.
Yeah, the official cause of death has not been announced, but the writer of this story, which I'll read in a minute, says, "I find it ironic that a podiatrist still suffering from medical complications for an injured foot should die while in hospital before his medical procedure."
Yeah.
So, yeah, just terrible.
A sudden death is usually associated with heart failure, maybe a stroke, but I don't know.
Yeah, completely. So, yeah, I can't. The writer of the story, I think, is anonymous or something like that. But no, Christopher O'Brien. So thank you, Christopher, for the details. Mackie, we've only got a few minutes before the top of the hour break.
Oh, so we do. Yeah.
The thing that got me about the Ukraine, I wanted to bring this up. Sorry to dance around the subjects today. Was the treaty. The treaty with the UK, when the Ukraine was split away from the USSR, and the treaty was signed as a partnership alliance with the UK and the USA. Should the USSR or Russia, post-USSR, invade their country in any way, that the UK and the USA would be their ally through that issue, yeah? And that included the use of military force. Now, have you seen any UK troops or USA troops landing in the Ukraine, defending the Ukraine from Russia?
Not today.
No, neither have I. And, look, sure, it's just a piece of paper, but I think whoever it is that signed that should be rolling in their grave, because, you put these things down, they're meant to be set in stone, and, the poor people were surviving on it. We're tainted with our news. Now, I have to say this. I was listening to a song from one of my favourite bands, U2, the other day, and the song is Sunday Bloody Sunday. And they make a very valid point. He says, lyrically in the song, he reads, I read, "When fact is fiction and TV reality."
Yeah.
When fact is fiction. Mackie, does that not describe our show?
Look, absolutely. And
when you're fed a story, you're fed a story from the media, which may not be the facts.
Yep.
And
but it doesn't matter. Because if you tell a lie often enough and long enough, it becomes the truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's what media does for us. You're right.
And I was surprised. And that was a long time ago, that song.
Yeah. Oh, well, look, but hey, we posted recently Plato's cave allegory, right?
Yes.
If you remember, it's a little animated clip, which is on our website as well. And if I find it, I will post it into the chat again. But essentially, what this is now 2,000 years ago, about Plato, right? And then he said that it's people, us, are sitting in a cave and looking at the shadows of life. In fact, looking at the shadows of a puppet show, which is not even real life. So we don't see the puppet show, we see the shadow of it. Mm-hmm. If somebody is released from that bondage, and they're only allowed to look forward, they can't turn their head, and it's experienced the real world, or it's experienced the real world, then it's allowed back into the cave, the people in the cave will, go as far as maybe even kill the person that tries to tell them what you're looking at is the shadow of a puppet show. It's a fantastic allegory, and this hey, over 2,000 years ago, still relevant today, of course.
Wow.
This is the amazing stuff.
It really is. Why aren't we learning, Nicky? I think some of us are.
Well, look, we are. I think we are damaged as a species. We're damaged. In fact, I've called this before. We are a species with amnesia. We are the true phoenix. Every now and again, every 5,000-10,000 years, we are utterly destroyed. Mm-hmm. We are realizing this, so it comes through in some of our art, culture, and so forth, and movies. The truth is seeping through, and we have amnesia, so we don't know what went before. And I do believe in reincarnation, and I believe that each time you go into the reincarnation cycle, you are furnished with amnesia, a memory wipe which is not always perfect, right? It's not always perfect. So some of us remember, usually children, and if you're regressed, so the wife is only rudimentary, if you will. If you're regressed, and Dave, you've done this, I think.
Yes.
And I think your mom was a bit of an expert in doing this kind of thing.
Yes, she was.
You can recall past lives, correct?
Yes, that's right. It does take some aid, but what we found was very interesting, and that was that not everyone, when regressed, you're not the Queen of Sheba, or you're not King Ra, or you're not anyone in particular. You're just a person like you are today. There's nothing particularly famous about you. Only those fantastic flights of imagination will lead you to be someone that you really weren't. But when they're successful, you're just a person, just going about their business. And those stories are fascinating. One of my closest relatives died alone on a farm. Died alone. I mean, that's not a dream that you would have. It's not an idea of a past life that you would think would be interesting. He said, for the most part, his entire life was completely boring. He did nothing. He saw no one. That's it. Yeah. He basically lived a solo existence. And who would think that up? He's got a nice life. He's a tremendously, he's a lovely fellow. He knows who he is, and he does listen to the show, by the way. And you know what? I think that's astounding. That we should do a whole show on it, but there's more detail. There's more detail to come out, and we know that there's some children alive who have also while they still have contact to that memory, have been able to spill some of the details, and those details have always been confirmed.
Yeah, we did do a show. We should do an update. I want to just raise a quick point. We should definitely do an update, right? 100%. Mm-hmm. There's a point that Dude Guy raised just before the music here, is that we don't teach anymore in school. We don't teach any of the things that we might mention here on the air either, like things like logic and rhetoric. I mean, I was lucky here in Germany. I was studying philosophy of all subjects in grammar school. So I still had a touch of classical education, nothing compared to my grandfather, who went to grammar school in the 19-teens, so 1914 or 15, where he was taught ancient Greek and philosophy and Latin and so forth. He was taught to think. People are no longer taught to think. People are taught to regurgitate. People are taught to be corporate little robots. And this is really what we're doing here. Do you know what I mean? That's the problem. And then thanks, Dude Guy, for raising this as well. But Dave, we definitely have to do a follow-up on the reincarnation and show that we did some time ago.
Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
You're back with Dave and Mackie's Shiny Side Out on freedomslips.com. That's right, the #1 listener-supported talk radio on the net. Since it is listener-funded radio, if you like what you hear, please go to freedomslips.com and push the donate button on the site support page. It's on the left. In the chat, the donation is greatly appreciated and helps run the station. It really does. And we donate when we can. I'd like to say hello to all of the new listeners we have today, and we're glad you're on board. And please do comment. Join us again in the future. We are halfway through number 7 and 100, or if you're conventional, 107. And we've been talking about a whole bunch of stuff, but the topic for today is, in fact, ancient tech. And Dave, before we go on, I'd like to say something in relation to ancient tech, and it is this. Now, people always ask, well, if there was a civilization in the past, or maybe even a visitation from other, species from across the cosmos, or dimensional, or time travelers, whatever it might be, why isn't there concrete evidence? Why don't we have something we can put our hand on and touch and look at? And to them I say two things. Number one, the civilization as it develops along certain lines. Not always the same line, okay? Not always the same tech is discovered, and not everybody in the past would have been an internal combustion society, okay? Different forms of energy might have been used. Different forms of technology that we today cannot recognize as such. I mean, there's a story that goes around the researchers' circle around the use of granite and other crystal stones as well, which may very well have been used as data storage device potentially, right? In Stone Age, in fact, people have found strange dreams sometimes in the vicinity of other ancient sites where you have these massive stones and granite structures. People have strange feelings and thoughts and dreams. Is it possible that these stones, were used like we might use today a USB stick or some kind of other, data storage device, maybe with a playback function? I don't know. The point is that just because a civilization reaches a certain level of development, which we would call a high civilization, which uses technology similar to ours, it doesn't mean it has to be exactly the same. The Vimanas were flying with something, a fuel mixture of mercury and Aurichalcos. Now, Dave and I believe Aurichalcos is referring to white gold powder, but we can't know for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is, they didn't use petrol or plutonium or uranium or any of the other stuff we use today. We do that. Okay? What we do know is that gold seems to have been a thing that has always been of interest to whoever has been on this planet. Okay? That's the first thing I say. The second thing I say is, well, guys, there is a lot of evidence that there was ancient high tech. I'll give you a couple of examples before we launch into the show proper. Very simple examples, in fact. Look at how the sarcophagus inside the Great Pyramid is fashioned on the inside. Mm-hmm. It is granite, one of the hardest stones there is, and the inside is perfectly straight, perfect right angles, and you can't see any machining marks. It's perfectly smooth. The inside of the sarcophagus is a perfect rectangular. Perfect. Mm-hmm. Number one. Number two, we have 1,000 ton stone blocks being used in construction. Now, the question you should ask yourself is, why? That's the question. Why would anybody, we don't do this today, we would not do this, it's crazy. We prefab. Why would anybody use a 1,000 ton stone block in construction? So in fact, there were three that were lifted. They were lifted to form the middle section of the platform in Baalbek, which is now the Jupiter Temple. No, it wasn't that before. The Romans just built on the platform. Okay, so the platform itself is much older. You have other interesting indications, such as the mechanism of Antikythera, which is a very complex clockwork mechanism which maps and traces the path of the stars, the moon, and the sun. Mm-hmm. In reconstruction, and people say, these are singular works of genius. Like there was just one person that was such a genius, he or she came up with it at that point. Well, no. In order to build the pyramids, you needed a massive infrastructure. Okay, massive. In order to come up with the mechanism of Antikythera, you had very advanced mathematics. You had to do extremely advanced astronomy. Okay. Because before you can track something, you have to measure it. You have to understand what it is, right?
Meki, you're right. That's so true. And the other thing that you need to know, you need to have available to you for the Antikythera mechanism is you need to have manufacturing.
Yeah. Because
that device was made to such perfect precision that, today that we would rely on laser cutting for it.
Yeah. And you know what? The interesting thing with that is, in order to have that, right, in order to have the kind of engineering or machining, you have to have an agreed-upon set of measurements. And make no mistake, what we use today, what we take it for granted, was a long time coming, inches and feet and centimeters and meters and so forth, right? You have to have an agreed-upon standard of measurements, okay, which must be based on something, but it has to be widely accepted as well. So this is all. These are all the hallmarks of a high civilization, right? Mm-hmm. And the thing is, so these are just some examples, guys. We also found a working glide or glider. It's like just a gliding plane inside one of the tombs in the Valley of the Kings. It actually worked. Like it was a plane, and if you threw it, it was a gliding plane. The aerodynamics were correct as well, so the wings were correct, so it would actually cover some distance. At a time when, of course, we thought aerodynamics had not been discovered some 3,000 years ago. There are stories as well. Stories. Okay, stories are stories, I get it. But stories that were being, and we spoke about this at length last time, the Mahabharata, the ancient Vedas, the Arabian tales, and so forth, Chinese mythology as well. Only now, with technologically mind's eyes, do we understand or do we see a possibility that these might be things that are describing actual events rather than fantasy. Yeah, like massive wars with thunderbolts and lightning and destroying entire peoples and so forth, entire cities, in fact. We can now understand that. In fact, I think there are more stories which we don't understand today because we haven't quite reached that level of development yet. Anyway, that's just the intro.
We're going to get into deeper with this one.
Yeah.
Mecky, can I talk about the Baghdad battery?
Of course you can, sir.
Thank you so much. Do you know, we're due soon to have Jason Martell on, and he made a reconstruction of the Baghdad battery, and he spoke at length about it. And I think this is such an amazing device because we have on one side, we have the people today, the archaeologists, saying that, well, they would have only used it to do copper plating. That's it, or gold plating or something, right? Some plating.
Yep.
And of course, the argument is, if you found a single AA battery in the future, and they'd say, oh, they would have just, that's a pretty cool thing that they made, good on them. But, they would have only done copper plating with it. What? No, what if you had 30 of them in series? Or in parallel, thinking about the kind of current you could get out of this thing. It's designed actually like a battery. It isn't by mistake, as some archaeologists believe, or historians believe, is that it was just pure coincidence that it just happened to make electricity, but they never knew about it. Don't worry about it. There's so many things we need to answer. If they're believing they were doing copper plating at that point, they needed electricity. That's quite clear on that. You can't just do electroplating with no apparent electrical source. You do need it. You need copper sulfate, an anode, a cathode. Put the thing and you need a carbon rod. You put it in there, and guess what? All of it attracts all the atoms across to the other object. Hence the plating. Yeah, it's thin. It takes a while. You get bubbles, and it's a lot of fun if you're a kid and you've got access to copper sulfate, which I did. I should stare at my parents for a long time over one Christmas, staring at them going, you let me play with copper sulfate. And I had a lot of fun. What's unusual, there's a long story that I can't tell you there. There's something unusual about this, and that is that if they had a lot of these, they could generate lots of voltage or lots of current or both, as we do today with battery packs, and you could achieve a whole bunch of stuff, like that light bulb that once again Jason Martell made another one. He made one that is on one of the hieroglyphs, Mecky, that's depicted with one of the giants. It's a giant person, one of their gods, holding this thing, which looks like a snake inside it, which is the maybe the anode or cathode inside, or could be the gas being illuminated, and it looks like it's attached by an electrical cable down the other end. Well, he made one of those. And that seems very consistent with the fact that what's the fact about the inside of the pyramids?
See, that's the interesting thing, guys. Inside the pyramid, there are no soot marks. Now, why is that interesting? What possibilities do you have to light, or what do we allow them to have? Well, they're torches, essentially. We allow them to have torches. When I say we, conventional science. So the ancient Egyptians had torches. If you have a torch, there comes smoke off it, which is carbon residue. And the carbon residue is the soot which forms on the ceiling or the walls, of the inside of anywhere where you are. Doesn't matter what you light, there should be soot marks. But lo and behold, there are no soot marks of any kind within the Great Pyramid.
That's right. And so there's the riddle, you see. If it just seems completely plausible now that if we're in court, we have the device, we have no proof of any other device being used, i.e. torches, like flaming torches. And therefore, we can only extrapolate that they must have had this. I mean, there's a picture of it on the wall. You can't ignore a picture on the wall, people. Yeah? Very important.
You can. Of course you can.
Oh, sorry.
You're not trying hard enough.
Yeah, so this is what it's all about, right? Is that we really shouldn't be ignoring it. And, the historians should just suck it up and get on with it, yeah? Instead of denying everything because they got a grant saying that they didn't, that they just used torches. Well, they're going to be using tar and, what's the other one? The beeswax candles and things like that, all of which give off a soot. And, we're not even going near the fact that they only had copper tools to carve the entire pyramid. Good luck with that one.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. So, it really annoys me. But this is what we're all about. We're all about, bringing all this information together for you. So, ancient aeroplanes. Mickey, can you bring us through that?
Let's run it. Okay, look,
All right.
the key thing is just, like I said, we say, aerodynamics, it really came in with the Wright brothers, the turn of the century, last century, and before that flight really was impossible. In fact, heavier than air flight was considered impossible. We had some hot air balloons in the 17th century, the
Montgolfier brothers, yes.
That's correct. But you know what? In Egypt and in South America specifically, I've already spoken about the glider plane that was found in one of the tombs. Mm-hmm. But in South America specifically, you've got these golden little statues, little figurines, right? They put in they fit in the palm of your hand, and the scientists, the archaeologists, call them stylized representations of birds and insects. Well, that's a nice way to classify things. We like to put things in a box. It's all good. It all works until you actually look at them.
Fool me to them.
Yeah, I've never seen a bird or an insect with a delta wing or a rudder, or in fact a cockpit. Nonetheless, there they are. I don't know if you guys have seen the images. We'll see if we can find something for the chat and for the show notes as well.
Yeah.
Then it's in all the books. Daniken has published them. Charles Burnett has published them. It's been on Ancient Aliens. The images are there. Nobody is disputing that these are authentic little figurines which were, made in that period. In fact, we don't really know when they were made because it's gold. Gold doesn't really tarnish, right? And there's also no dating method for gold that I'm aware of. Having said that, they're old. They were found in tombs and so forth, and they represent, to the modern eye, jet planes, for instance, right? Because they have all the requirements for a flight-worthy plane, including the back rudder. Okay, that's really important to provide stability for the plane.
Remember that insects don't have a vertical rudder at all.
Correct.
Or delta wings.
They came up with a different method of flight. These are not ornithopters, right? These are fixed-wing aircraft. So this is, and I say to the bunkers, guys, I get it. Explain to me, though, why it is taking shape and form of something we would today recognize as a fighter plane, a jet airplane, even a World War I kind of open cockpit type of plane. Why is that? Why it makes it stylized? I don't understand the stylized representation in this particular figurine. I don't get it. It's like Picasso drawing a bird, I guess.
I love your arts history, Becky.
Yeah, well, I find that too. That's what we're left with here. We're looking at these things, and people ask, where's the evidence? Where's the physical evidence? Well, you can choose to ignore it. You can choose to just dismiss it. And then we've spoken about this with Stanton as well. The people just don't look at the evidence. They don't read the papers. They don't look at what has been put before them. They just dismiss it out of hand because it does not fit into their worldview, does it?
That's exactly right. And Stanton even had a really funny quote. He said that he was having an argument with someone who hadn't even read the paper that he was arguing against. And it was Stanton's own paper. And he said, well, if you didn't read my paper, did you read the other 12 papers that it was, I extrapolated information from? And the guy goes, nope, I didn't read those either. Yeah, good luck with that, right? I'm not going to argue. Yeah, exactly. So, Mekki, but this is funny because this is what we see. We see this. It's no different in any way, shape, or form than you said the good words there with the modern eye. If you take it back to the 1920s, we didn't have swept wing or delta winged aircraft. We didn't have planes in that configuration. But surely, with today's eye, like you say, the modern eye, where we have that technology surrounding us, it is completely clear and obvious that that's exactly what it is.
Yep.
It's like the temple, Mekki. It's like the temple with the helicopter on it.
Abydos. You're correct. The Abydos, the glyphs there, which to all intents and purposes, the glyphs there do look like a Black Hawk, a helicopter, not a Huey. So again, I believe very firmly, and I think David is with me on this one, that there are still artifacts out there that we can't recognize for what they are. Mm-hmm. Right? Because we have not yet attained that level of achievement, not that level of sophistication. And to us, it's just a rock or a representation of a tree or whatever the hell it is, right? Pardon my French. It is really important that we keep our minds open to the possibility that we are not, in fact, the pinnacle of civilization. We are not, in fact, the pinnacle of evolution, if you're bent that way, or creation. I don't care what you believe. Mm-hmm.
We're far from either of those, or any of them.
Yeah, I agree. There are others that went before us, which seem to have been much more advanced, which might have attained lofty heights of achievement, which we can only dream about. And I know it's hard. I understand. We like to think of ourselves as the it people, but maybe we're not the it people. Maybe we also ran people, not quite there yet, and take away our meals, we turn to cannibals within a week. People, that's who we are.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's what.
So, but do look at the link. Hey, thanks for posting the link, by the way.
No worries. I put it in the chat room. I put it in our chat, and it's also in the show notes. Hey, Mekki, there's more things. Like when I think about this, I think about the Black Granite Pile, Black Mountain.
Yeah.
These are ancient mysteries, yeah. And it's located in Queensland, in Australia, of course. 26 kilometres to the south of Cooktown. If you haven't been there, please put it on your next bucket list to achieve. Go there, and I think you'll find something quite extraordinary. What's bizarre about this is the pile of black granite boulders of all different sizes. There's no soil separating them at all, and it isn't an area where black granite is found, which is very strange. It's not. It isn't from a glacial period where this is the rubble pile, as is half of New York City. A pile of debris where the glacier ended and stopped pushing on the debris that it had scraped off the bottom of the canal as it moved out to sea. No, this isn't. This is not at all like that. There's fables and tales. The local folk have a tremendous history with this, and they even attribute it to there being and the angry gods. If you go there, you'll be lost forever. There are even people in modern era who talk about their cattle going missing. If you were, they talk about a serpent and everything like this. If you were small enough, Mekki, and long enough, you could probably navigate your way to the heart of this thing and back out again without moving a single boulder. But the pile is significant, and I think there was there's also a record, the first record of a mysterious disappearance, because we're talking about mysteries, in 1877. A carrier, along with his horse, was searching for bullocks, which is in cattle, that had strayed into the boulders. His bullocks, and his horse were never seen again. It's something. It looks like, say you were building a large construction, and you wanted, you're organising. You're the foreman. You say, okay, there's a load of boulders coming, and let's put it over there. We're going to be building over there. We'd like to, let's have a staging area. So this is the staging area for the square cutting or the melting of these boulders for another site. If you had a production line, this is your source material.
Yes.
Because it doesn't seem to be, what's weird, like I said, there's no black granite there. This is the only place it's found, and it's in a pile. How could that be? And hence the mystery.
What's the purpose? Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Now, we have spoken about the Antikythera mechanism a bit with you guys. It was found in 1908, in fact, during a diving expedition of the island of Antikythera, hence the name. And interestingly enough, this particular piece of technology, and that's what it is more complicated than the average modern-day Swiss watch, which has, and it has 70 moving parts, which work in unison, of course, to give you a representation of astronomical events. Very useful, in fact, for sailors. Now, ancient sailors, according to accepted theory, had to sail along the coastline because they could not navigate out into the open sea. They would get lost. They had no sextant, and we'll explain to you at another show what that means. But essentially, they couldn't determine their position, longitude and latitude, without a mechanical aid. Now, with the Antikythera mechanism, right, that throws a whole different light onto this, because it is much more complicated a mechanism than a sextant, okay, and a lot more thought had to go in it, and maybe it enabled the ancient sailors to travel well beyond what we deemed possible. Think about the Phoenicians. Beyond the Pillars of Heracles, they had a trade network, which is the Strait of Gibraltar modern day, and they were very jealously guarding their trade network. And there's now evidence they may have gone certainly down the African coast, all the way down to South Africa, and potentially into the Indian Ocean across to Asia, and maybe even Australia. How did they do that? Now, well, it seems that there was a mechanism available that allowed them to do that, which is this particular Antikythera mechanism. And maybe there were other variants of it. I mean, we've only found this one. But that's not surprising, because if there were a catastrophe, if something went wrong, if something, destroyed our civilization, not too many artifacts would be readily available. In fact, we can't dig everywhere. We can't check the entire ocean floor. Most of these finds are purely coincidental, right? We are not sophisticated enough to find everything there is. I mean, well, we are the elite, right? So bear in mind that every find that comes our way is a boon, is a gift, and indicates much higher levels of civilization than we give credit.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
Let's talk about the art, because I mean, these are physical pieces of evidence, but there's also artwork available, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Let's just take your mind back to Yugoslavia, a monastery in Yugoslavia. There's a fresco in there, everyone, of Jesus, which shows manned flight, and it was painted back in 1539. Yeah, and it's very strange. That doesn't seem to fit. Does that fit? I don't remember us having manned flight then, Mekki.
No. Hey, I didn't learn about it in school.
Well, when I was there in 1539, it was all the rage. I used to wear an onion on my belt.
Not the white one. Guys stole them all.
The Sumerian culture back at 6,000 BC as well. They were prolific. They invented The newspaper, we thought it was later. We thought the monks had made mass copying. But no, they just carved it out and rolled it onto a piece of clay and fired it. There's your daily press. These were handed out. I think that's something. Their artwork depicts giants. The stars, our current solar system, the technology that they've got is unbelievable. How they knew that Neptune was blue. We didn't even discover Neptune until way later than 6000 BC. Just the fact that they knew that it was, we were on the seventh planet in from the outside. How could you know that? You couldn't know that. You just can't, because they're not visible. Saturn's the furthest you can guess is a planet. Yeah. I think that past the gas giants, because you wouldn't know that they even exist, because you can't see them in the sky. That's one very important thing, and the other is, and we have spoken about this before, and it's the underwater cities.
Yes.
And I've been watching a lot of shows this week, Mickey. It's called Escape Earth or Evacuate Earth, and one of the
I've seen that. Is it good?
They're really good, and I'm recording them all.
Okay.
One of the things on there, one of the scenarios they played was a huge moon-sized object comes into the solar system and collides with the moon. But this is a comet-like, containing ice. And so the ice becomes this excretion disk right across our ecliptic, the Earth's equator, the spinning axis, and slowly falls into the planet.
Wow.
And the accretion disk, having more mass than the moon, it reigns for 300 years. And in that, the Earth just continues to get deeper in water. Remembering, everyone, that that's theorized as one of the ways that we would have received water on this Earth. So is from those kind of collisions. So look, it's completely, plausible. All the physicists and people in there who are surmising what we would do and what kind of scenarios we had. Escape is one of those, clearly, because that's the name of the show. But it adds up, And if we've got underwater cities, you don't have to change the level of the bottom of the ocean by very much, and you get a huge increase at the top because of the crushing pressures the water is at. Even though it's uncompressible to a certain extent, it certainly behaves differently. So if we know France, there was entrances to caves that are 30 meters underwater. Off Japan, there are, and there's cave paintings in there. Off Japan, there are submerged, perfectly etched, cut stone city. Off India, Mickey, there's one of those as well. We're looking at off Bimini, the Bimini Road. These are perfectly etched stones, which looks like they've been held up to be leveled, and some of the the substrate has been washed away to reveal these leveling stones on these large walkways. But the whole thing looks like it's been tilted by about 10 or 15 degrees to make it look like it's going underwater when that at one point would have been level. These things are mysteries. The underwater cities, mysteries. We can theorize that with the poles more covered in ice, the seawater would have been lower. We know the seawater has been higher and it's been lower. So it stands to reason that necessarily follows that this would make sense, that we would see these kind of things. The whole Mediterranean Sea looks like it was flooded at one point, Mickey.
Yeah.
There's the film Noah just coming out right now. Have you seen that?
No, not yet, no. But I've seen the short, yeah.
Russell Crowe is Noah. Russell Crowe playing Noah. Please pay me to have said that. I like RoboCop better. I haven't seen this movie yet, and I want to go see it just for the special effects. I think if you can make it disappear into a film and not think about it, it'll be something else. But this is one of the other things we talk about. We talk about if there was a planetary impact, it's another scenario for a global flood, which there's been in the past. In December, we talked about, off India, there was signs of an impact location, which would equate to the time period of the Great Flood, would have been consistent with the stories of raining fire and water in India, and for the rest of the world, raining for 40 days. They talked about in this Evacuate Earth, they talked about the same thing. They talked about it raining for a long time, severe weather changes. Maybe we're entering a part of space right now they're not telling us about, which is filled with water ice. Maybe that's another thing. We just don't know. Not that they tell us.
Yeah, well, that's right. They won't, right? I mean, that's the thing. And look, the truth is that somebody out there knows exactly what is going on. I mean, a lot of money is being invested in things we don't even know about. I don't think everything is going into black objects that are just meant for military purposes. There's a lot of other stuff that's going on. And all the things we discussed here, they're all phenomena that can be investigated. And trust me, the people in power that hold the reins either know about them already anyway or are most interested in investigating those things.
Necki, yeah, not unlike the pre-World War II Germans searching the planet for historical artifacts, yeah, which they didn't tell their people at the time, but it was the one when they we're gonna do this thing, yeah, let's go out and find all this stuff. That's still on the table for me for the Iraq War. That's Sumer. That's the ancient city of Sumer. And for me,
in fact,
no, go ahead.
No. I'm sorry, in Ukraine they found megalithic structures too.
They certainly have. Yes, and it's just been released this week. That was David Icke release I saw. And these stones are 3,000 tons each, and they've been manufactured and stacked into place. And they some gaps between which you can walk as alleyways are 70 meters long. But they're 30 meters tall, 30 yards tall, 30 yards, 70 yards long. But this is really weird. The first written language, Becky, was the cuneiform in Sumeria.
Yeah.
And they had 400 characters in their language. That's pretty hard to do with an L-shaped, tool, making 400 different characters. Salim is hello. That's about all I can learn. It's a very, very complicated language. You think Chinese is hard?
Yeah.
The Mandarin, I should say. So, but the Sumerians said they were taught a language, farming, society, politics, the whole business. They could have skipped politics from the Anunnaki.
Yep.
And that's in their text. They didn't make it up. Why would they do that? Why wouldn't they claim ownership? Woohoo, guess what? We were the first people. We're the first people. We made it. We did it. We conquered writing, art, literature. We got the whole society thing down. We know how to farm. We know how to build buildings, how to plan a city. Yeah. Oh, no, actually, no, it wasn't us. It was the Anunnaki. They taught us it all. Talk about megalithic structures.
Look, this is the crazy thing. I mean, the evidence is there, but people choose to ignore it. I mean, we talk about megalithic structures, right? A lot. You mentioned the Bimini roadblocks in Japanese, I guess, off the coast of Japan, the cities that were found. We talk about Stonehenge. We have talked about Baalbek and the 1,000-ton stones. Now we've got in Ukraine 3,000-ton stones. Need some verification of that story, but nonetheless, there it is. We talk about the pyramids, the Sphinx. We talk about Puma Punku, right? In South America, we spoke about that at length. And they're using construction metal plants, in fact, in their construction.
That's right.
In a similar way, we do that today for some roadblocks I've seen. So these are double T-shaped clamps that hold the stones together. They were poured apparently on site. So you had to have a mobile smelter. You had to have a mobile smelter that you could pour those clamps into place.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what kind of level of technology that would require? So, this is really the great mystery. And Puma Punku looks like it was thrown about by a giant playing with the little Lego blocks. It's all over the shop.
Mm-hmm.
And Machu Picchu. It's extremely isolated and inaccessible. I mean, it's up there. A Caucasian woman from sea level that was born and raised on the sea level, even relatively high altitude, cannot give birth in Machu Picchu. It's too high. And it's like a little remote, beautiful fairy tale village. If you look at it, it looks amazing. Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, the two cities in the Indus Valley, dating back to about 3000 before the Common Era, with roughly 35 to 50,000 inhabitants each.
Wow.
Okay, we're talking 5,000 years ago, okay? And apparently they're still among the most radioactive skeletons in the world, according to some Russian scientists.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is stuff that, you mean, there it is. There it is. They spoke at length about the flood and so forth. We did a whole show cycle around this, guys. Remember? And it is the difference in the stories that makes them more plausible, not the similarity. Apart from that, when Solon went to Egypt, and we've spoken about this before, he was told by the Egyptian priests, Solon was the great Athenian lawgiver, he was told by the priests in Egypt that the Greeks are but children because they only remember one flood. The Egyptians, however, remember many catastrophes that ended civilization. They put that knowledge into their secret library. You know, they were the guardians of the knowledge, and I believe that the artifacts and monuments within Egypt still hold that knowledge. Why are we not allowed into the chambers underneath the Sphinx? We know they're there. We've done the echo sounding. We know there are great chambers under the Sphinx. I do not remember seeing a news report of it being opened or being made available to the public. I don't know, Dave, did you?
No. 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 Yep.
So the question is, what's going on and how come this is kept from us? I repeat what I said before. We are a species with amnesia, and in fact it's deliberate and forced amnesia that we are subjected to. I read a science fiction story once, interestingly, where there was a planet, there was a colony on the planet, and every 5,000 years it was wiped out. But essentially that colony was just breeding soldiers. And every 5,000 years, the masters would come and harvest all the capable, I guess, male and female soldiers they could, which would be millions at that stage, and destroyed, but not entirely, the civilization that existed. So in the next 5,000 years, it could, grow again, and they could harvest the next batch of soldiers. Now, I'm not saying that's happening here, but certainly something is happening here, which is, and we've explained to you in our hypothesis what we think that is. Now, the next piece of information we're going to share with you is from Phil Coppens, rest in peace.
Yes.
From his website. Dave.
No, you take it.
This is about Mohenjo-Daro, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
No, you take it, man.
I'll take it. Alrighty. Look, according to Phil, there's an intriguing aspect to Mohenjo-Daro which sets it apart from most other ancient ruins. Okay, and it is one anomaly among others, or several, at the site that caused the researchers to suggest there might have been forces unleashed in the past that are comparable to modern weapons. Walls, pottery, and other items found in the city have been turned into kind of ceramic glass, indicating that they were exposed to heat close to 1500 degrees Celsius. And evidence of ionizing radiation has also been found in some of the burial sites. Archaeologist Francis Taylor stated that etching in some nearby temples that he translated suggests that the people living there prayed to be spared from the great light that was coming to lay ruin to the city. And if you remember that, a nuclear blast will blind you if you look at it directly. Mm-hmm. It is mind-boggling, right, to imagine that the civilization before ours might have had access to nuclear technology. Well, yes, but only in so much as we don't allow for people to have the same intelligence as we have today, right? Excavations at Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, when they reached street level, they discovered skeletons that were scattered about the city, many holding hands and sprawling in the street, as if some instant or horrible doom had killed them instantly, okay? They were lying unburied in the street, because there was nobody around to bury them, I guess, in the end, right? Now, Alexander Grabowski, in Riddles of Ancient History, which was published in 1966, reported the discovery of at least one human skeleton in the area, with a level of radioactivity approximately 50 times greater than it should have been due to natural radiation. Furthermore, thousands of fused lumps, which were christened black stones, have been found at Mohenjo-Daro, and they appear to be fragments of clay vessels that melted together in extreme heat. And this next bit is a very interesting thing, which I didn't know until we had researched it for the show in the first instance. A curious sign of an ancient nuclear war in India may be the giant crater that exists near Mumbai, which is formerly called Bombay, the nearly circular 2,154 diameter Lonar crater, which is located 400 kilometers northeast of Mumbai and dates back to at least 50,000 years, could be related to nuclear warfare in extreme antiquity. There are no traces of any meteoric material, has been found at the site or in the vicinity. And it's the world's only known impact crater in basalt. Basalt is the stone.
Yeah, basalt, yeah.
And it's almost perfectly circular. Indications of great shock from a pressure exceeding 600,000 atmospheres and intense abrupt heat, indicated by basalt glass spherules, can be ascertained from the site. Now, this is the physical evidence everybody seems to be crediting, but which everybody ignores with equal glee. Clark, let's not investigate this. No, it's not true. It never happened. You lie. Yes, no, not really.
You think your Jedi powers will work on me, Mickey?
These aren't the mysteries you're looking for.
That's right. Do you know what? It really does annoy me, and it always will. You know, they hinge their entire career on it not existing, and then when you have proof that it does, oh, well, that doesn't exist. That's going to ruin my career. Oh, did I say that out loud? And you see them do this, and when pressed, they have no true answer. They said, oh, and it's the full thing with both Jim Mars and Stanton, both said the same thing, is that they'll attack then the person. Oh, well, that person isn't a scientist. Yeah, but the information they brought forward isn't a scientist, it's information. And I greatly appreciate you looking over it for a little. Would you mind? I haven't got time for that. Hogwash. Yeah, so I was going to say a different word. But, flim-flam, hogwash.
Flim-flam, you're a flim-flam man.
And that's really what it is. So, do we not learn all about this in school? Why don't we learn about it? Why is it suppressed and why is it ridiculed? Why can't we be open about it? Now, in our dealings with, doing research and looking for things around, I actually find the Russian scientists a little more open, and the Russian people a little more open to the, both not only just the paranormal, but about things that maybe our Western media is telling us is wrong, or the Western society is telling us it's wrong, or the historians don't want to change the textbooks. They keep telling me it's too expensive. And I said, well, that's really funny because, I had to buy a textbook when I went to school, when it's given to me. So why wouldn't you just have it as the next release, and when I buy one, I'll get that with the updated information in it? Oh, but, you can't do that. Why not? Why can't you? Tell me. It's inexpensive, Mackie. I'm shaking your head and clasping your neck in anger with that one. That's crazy. It really is crazy talk to say that you can't update. It's too expensive. Well, you know what? It isn't. And in this day and age, I can print my book, for instance, and make a change to it, and everyone who's got a copy of the soft copy of it is automatically updated with it. That's just awesome.
That's right.
But Becky, our show wouldn't be our show unless we had to wear our tinfoil hats, and I see this as a perfect opportunity to go ahead with that. So, what about what's the biggest potential ancient tech artifact Are you ready? Nicky, I know you know the answer to this one. And it's the moon.
Yeah.
By far it's certainly the largest. It's the largest potential ancient artifact we have. It also is the most mysterious. And have you noticed we haven't seen any more from the Chinese rover that's on the moon?
Yeah. I know.
That's unusual, because they'd be going, yeah, look how many lies the US tell. Look, and maybe they're on side now. Who knows? But the moon especially is, it rang like a bell. They hit it twice. One was with the lunar orbiter, and then another one in particular sent to the South Pole to try and collide into the crater, which is perpetually in darkness, which they found water vapor coming from. And but Neki, to just quickly go over the stats.
Oh, sure. Look, the moon is exactly 400 times smaller than the sun, and exactly 400 times closer to the Earth. So if that weren't the case, we wouldn't get a full solar eclipse, or lunar eclipse for that matter. Now, also, the moon always has the same science shown to us. That's, part of the rotational mystery there. Also, NASA, and I know you love this one, hit it twice on purpose, and it rang like a bell indicating, and we say it all the time, it's no hollow, or great caverns within. Also, it's older than the Earth, believe it or not. The rock samples are older than the Earth. And it seems to have atmosphere, because there's sometimes plumes of water vapor potentially coming out of it. We found structures on the moon, of course. We can't talk about it, but there they are. And they seem to be built from glass, because glass, believe it or not, in a vacuum is stronger than steel. So there are a lot of things there that are very strange. In fact, if you look at Jose Escamilla's videos, specifically on the moon and the Clementine mission and so forth, you will find things that just can't be explained. We find mining operations on the moon today. It looks like they're bases or half-buried ships, potentially, craft. Mm-hmm. The moon itself is a great, great mystery. It's an anomaly. The Earth-lunar relationship is out of whack. In comparison to other moons, it is much bigger than it should be in comparison to the Earth, that is. And, without it, we wouldn't have tides. It even affects the cycles of women, the moon does. So there are a lot of things that are odd about the moon, a lot of stories about the moon, the man in the moon, in fact, China believes the rabbit lives on the moon.
At the time before the moon.
Yeah, we've got pre-lunar people, or people that claim to have existed before the moon was there. Now, again, this is all strange stuff, and you know what? Given enough time, we just don't know. Maybe there was no moon 50,000 years ago. I'm not saying there was no moon 50,000 years ago. I'm saying, how would we know? How would we know?
Because we're certainly not listening to the ancient people who tell us there wasn't one.
Yeah. This is really crazy stuff. And this is tinfoil head material, guys. No doubt about it. And neither Dave nor I claim to know the answer. And we're not saying there was no moon. We're just raising the speculation. Well, what if there were no moon then? What if the moon is in geological terms, a fairly recent addition?
Despite its age. Yeah, so despite its age, maybe it's new to us. The other question that comes up is, why wasn't it ever depicted in hieroglyphs or petroglyphs or cave paintings?
So there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make any sense. Now, take us through the summary, sir. I mean, it's been a strange show, and we're coming close to the end, and it's great that we actually made it through the show notes. Mm-hmm. But what are our thoughts here that we should leave our listeners with?
I'm with you, Nicky. So proof exists that significant cultures existed before modern times, and survived long enough to have left behind the evidence mentioned here tonight. Proof also exists of interference into our affairs by visitors, and by visitors whomever they might be. We wouldn't be talking about it if these cultures didn't have, or haven't have spoken about, and have written language, governance, infrastructure, and lots of people, which requires, laws, food, clean water supplies, irrigation. I mentioned this. This is my quote from last time. Irrigation, health controls, education, farming, and trade. These are infrastructure. Now you need infrastructure, like in South America. The whole of the basin there, where the Incas and the Mayans lived. There was hundreds of thousands, in fact, millions of people living there. They had infrastructure. They had all of these things. You can't just have a whole bunch of people living there and not feed them. They quickly die out, like within weeks. But you just can't do it, right? So you need to have all these things in place. So you can't send a battling war front of people in somewhere and not back them up with infrastructure. You need that water supplies. You need health controls. You need food sources. So even if it's a moving source of people or a stationary society, you need those things in place. But mostly a technology that allowed them to build an intricate and precise
And Mickey.